Ethan walked alone through the silver forest under a sky full of pale stars. The air glowed with soft blue light from the strange plants that lived only on this alien moon. His boots sank slightly into the moss that felt warm under his feet. He listened to the soft hum of unseen creatures and wondered how far the next human outpost might be. He carried no weapon, only a small pack, and the quiet courage that had brought him across the galaxy ahead. A clearing opened wide, the trees bent like giant bows. Around a circle of stone pillars in the center stood a tall figure cloaked in dark green. The figure lifted a long bow carved from shining bone, an arrow already drawn and pointing toward him. The figure was Syrah, a guardian of this sacred ground. Her silver eyes shone with warning, her voice low like distant thunder. "You should not be here. Human, turn back now." Ethan raised his hands and spoke in calm words. "I mean no harm. I am only passing through." Syrah tightened the string of her bow. The arrow gleamed with a cold green fire leaf. "Before the law forces me to act." She said the words like a chant learned since childhood. Ethan stepped closer, feeling the weight of her stare. He sensed danger, but also something deeper. A test, perhaps, or a challenge older than memory. Without warning, the string sang and the arrow leapt into the air faster than thought, a streak of light and death. Ethan moved without thinking, his body driven by something beyond training. His right hand shot forward, fingers closing around the arrow while it still sliced the night. The world seemed to stop. The moss, the stars, even the breath of the wind froze around him. His palm burned with the energy of the captured weapon. A gasp echoed through the clearing. Syrah lowered her bow, her eyes wide as the arrow pulsed in his grip. "No outsider has ever done this," she whispered. "The law is clear. The one who catches the arrow is bound to the one who fires it. The council will decide our fate." Then looked at the glowing shaft in his hand. It felt alive, warm, like a heartbeat. He released it slowly. The arrow floated for a moment before fading into a soft spark that drifted to the ground. He met her gaze, calm but curious. "What does this law mean?" he asked, though. Inside his mind raced with questions about alien customs and what binding might demand. Syrah stepped back, her cloak brushing the moss. "You have claimed me by sacred right," she said. "Now you must join with me in union. It is the way of my people. It cannot be broken. The stars themselves will bear witness. If we refuse, it could bring war between our worlds." Her voice trembled as if she too feared the weight of tradition. The forest whispered around them, a soft wind carrying scents of unknown flowers. Ethan felt the truth settle heavy in his chest. A simple journey had become a turning point for two species. He thought of Earth, of home, and of the woman before him, whose arrow he had caught without knowing why. Perhaps fate, perhaps chance, but now something greater pulled at both of them. Syrah lowered her eyes, but her voice grew steady. "You will come to the council tomorrow. The elders will seal the bond or condemn us both for defiance." She turned and began to walk toward the distant glow of her city, pausing only once to glance back. Her silver eyes caught the starlight like twin moon. Ethan followed slowly, each step echoing the strange new path ahead. He had no plan, only the knowledge that one moment of impossible reflex had bound his life to hers and perhaps to the destiny of two worlds. Ethan walked behind Syrah as the forest turned darker. The glowing moss dimmed and a thin mist rose from the ground. The silence felt alive. Every step echoed like a secret warning. He wondered if unseen eyes watched them from the black trees. He had many questions, but Syrah spoke no word. Her cloak moved like a shadow, and the silver light of her eyes flickered through the fog. The path curved toward a tall stone arch covered with vines that shimmered in faint blue light. Beyond the arch, a narrow bridge stretched across a deep chasm. The air smelled of cold metal and strange flowers. Ethan felt a low hum in the stones beneath his boots. Syrah paused at the bridge and turned to him, her voice soft like distant bells. "Once we cross this bridge, we are within the holy reach. The council will feel our presence." She said, "If you have fear, you may turn back, but the law will still bind us. Even if you runneth," and shook his head. "I will not run," he said. "I must understand why this law exists and why my action means so much." Syrah studied him, her face unreadable. Then she started across the bridge. The planks glowed faintly with each step. Ethan followed carefully. The drop below seemed endless. A swirling fog moved like slow water far beneath. The sound of a deep heartbeat echoed from the chasm as if the planet itself breathed. Halfway across, a sudden gust of icy wind struck the bridge. It swayed and creaked. Ethan gripped the rope rail. The mist rose higher and shapes began to form inside it. Tall, thin figures with bright eyes of red drifted upward, silent and slow. Sarah stopped, her bow in hand, though no arrow rested on the string. "These are the Watchers," she whispered. "They test the will of those who walk toward the council. Do not look into their eyes or they will see your hidden fears." The figures floated closer, their eyes burning like small suns. Ethan felt a pull inside his mind. Memories of loss and loneliness flickered before him. He forced his gaze to the wooden planks and took another step. The bridge shook beneath the weight of the unseen pressure. Sarah moved steady as stone, her voice a low chant in a language he did not know. The figures hissed like wind through broken glass, then slowly drifted back into the fog. The heartbeat sound faded. The bridge steadied. They reached the far side and stepped into a great cavern lit by pillars of crystal. The air shimmered with blue and gold lights. Strange. Symbols glowed along the walls. Sarah lowered her hood. "This is the Hall of Echoes," she said. "Here the council listens and decides the fate of unions bound by the Arrow Law." Ethan looked around the vast chamber and felt the weight of 1,000 years of tradition pressing upon him. From the shadows emerged 3 elder beings, tall and robed, their skin like polished stone and their eyes like deep oceans. They moved with quiet grace. One spoke with a voice like rolling thunder. "The human has caught the sacred arrow. The bond is set, but the test of spirit remains. Will the human heart accept the union or break the ancient teeth?" And stepped forward, his voice steady though his pulse raced. "I do not understand your law, but I will not run from it. If this bond means peace between our people, I will face the test." The elders watched in silence, their gaze heavy with unseen power. Sarah stood beside him, her hand close to his, though not touching. The cavern filled with a soft vibration, as if the crystals themselves approved or warned. One elder raised a staff of light, then pointed to a dark tunnel that opened behind them. "The trial awaits." The voice said, "If you pass, the path will reveal your true intent. Fail and the bond will shatter." Bringing shadow over both worlds, Ethan felt the chill of destiny. He looked at Sarah. She met his eyes with a calm fire. Together they stepped toward the tunnel where deeper mysteries and hidden dangers waited. Ethan entered the tunnel with Sarah close behind the air. Inside was heavy and smelled of stone and rain. Faint light from crystals along the walls flickered like dying stars. Each step echoed through the passage, and the sound seemed to follow them. Like a whisper of unseen things, the path sloped downward into a darkness that pulsed with a strange rhythm, as if the planet itself kept a slow beating heart. The floor grew slick with mist, and the crystals gave way to black rock veins that glowed. Faint red. Sarah touched the wall with her fingers and murmured words in her own tongue. The stone answered with a soft hum. She turned to Ethan, her voice quiet. "The trial watches us. It seeks what we hide in our hearts. It will create illusions of our deepest fear. Do not believe what you see, only hold to truth." Then nodded, but doubt slid into his mind. The air thickened until breathing felt like drinking smoke. The light behind them vanished, leaving only a dim glow ahead. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting into shapes that shifted with each step. A low hiss crawled through the air. Ethan felt the weight of memories, old and sharp. The night sky, of Earth, the face of a friend lost in a distant war. He forced his eyes forward, but the shadows kept forming images he wished to forget. Sarah walked with calm grace, her silver eyes never leaving the path. Suddenly the tunnel widened into a cavern lit by a cold blue fire. A circle of black water lay at the center. Its surface, still as glass above the pool, hung a single crystal emitting a sound like a slow heartbeat. The elder's voice filled the chamber without form or body to cross as to face the hidden self. The voice said only, "Truth may pass a." Narrow stone bridge stretched. Across the pool, Ethan stepped onto it. The air grew colder, the water below began to ripple. Images formed upon its surface. He saw his own reflection. Then it changed, showing a vision of earth-burning cities falling into shadow. friends calling his name, then turning away. His chest tightened and he staggered, but he remembered Sira's warning. Do not believe what you see. He whispered to himself and forced 1 foot forward. The bridge shook. A shadow rose from the water, a figure with his own face, but eyes of endless dark. It spoke in a voice like broken glass. You will fail, you are alone, no bond can hold you, no law can save you. Ethan felt the cold of despair grip his mind, but he clenched his fists and stared into the dark eyes. I am not alone, he said, my choice is my own, and my heart is stronger than fear. The shadow shrieked and fell back into the water, vanishing like smoke. Sarah followed behind him, her own trial unseen. But her steps sure, the blue fire dimmed as they reached the far side. A stone door slid open without sound, revealing a hall filled with soft white light. A gentle breeze carried the scent of unknown flowers. Ethan felt the tension in his body ease. The elder's voice returned. You have faced the fear and held the truth. The bond remains now. Face the trial of unity beyond lies. The final path. Sarah looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips. You stood strong, she said. Many have fallen to their own illusions. You are different. Ethan met her gaze, feeling a strange warmth despite the cold around them. Together they walked into the white hall, which narrowed into another passage carved with glowing runes. The air here was warmer and alive, with a faint melody like distant singing. As they moved deeper, the song grew clearer. Words he could almost understand, voices of many blending into one, a promise of union and a warning of sacrifice. Ethan felt the sound vibrate in his chest like a second heartbeat. He knew the journey was not over. Beyond the next bend lay the heart of the council and the final decision that would decide the fate of 2 worlds. Ethan and Sirah stepped into the next chamber, where the white light faded into a dim glow of amber. The walls curved high above them, like the inside of a giant shell. Runes pulsed in slow rhythm, casting long shadows that seemed to move on their own. The floor was smooth black stone that reflected their steps, as if the surface were liquid. The melody they had followed softened into a deep quiet that pressed against their ears like a held breath. Soft tremor shook the ground, and from the far end of the chamber a set of tall doors slid open without sound. A cold wind rushed through, carrying the scent of metal and distant storms beyond. The doors stretched a bridge of glass leading to a tower of dark crystal that pierced a swirling sky of silver clouds. Lightning crawled across the clouds in silent flashes. Sarah whispered, This is the trial of unity. Only those who trust without doubt can cross the sky bridge. The glass will sense fear and break, then looked at the narrow bridge that hung over endless mist below. The faint shimmer of starlight flickered like hidden eyes. He took a slow breath. We will cross together, he said. Sarah nodded, her silver eyes steady. They stepped onto the glass. The surface felt alive, warm beneath their feet, but thin as ice. Each step sent ripples of light across its length. Halfway across, a deep voice rumbled from the mist. You are not bound by fate. Human, turn back. The bond is a lie. Ethan stopped for a heartbeat. The voice sounded like his own thought, made heavy and loud. Sarah reached for his hand, though she did not touch him. Trust me, she said softly. Keep walking. The bridge trembled as a sudden wind rose, twisting around them, carrying whispers of doubt. You will fall. You will fail. Then focused on the rhythm of his steps and the quiet strength in Sarah's presence. The whispers grew sharper, forming words that cut like blades. They spoke of betrayal, of broken worlds, of loneliness waiting in the dark. But he kept his eyes on the tower ahead. The glass beneath them shimmered and cracked with thin lines of blue light. Sarah closed her eyes and began to hum a low melody that wrapped around them like a shield. The cracks faded and the bridge steadied. They reached the far side, where the tower opened into a spiral staircase of black crystal. The air was cool and heavy with the scent of rain as they climbed. Faint lights moved within. The crystal walls, shapes of people, both human and alien, their faces filled with wonder and sorrow. Ethan felt their gaze like a silent chorus urging him upward. Each step echoed like the beat of a distant drum. At the top they entered a circular hall lit by a sphere of soft golden fire suspended in the air. The council of elders waited, their forms tall and still, their eyes deep as endless oceans. The central elder raised a hand. The bond of the arrow is strong, but the final choice remains. The elder said, "Will you join in union and bring peace, or deny the path and bring shadow upon both worlds?" Before Ethan could speak, a sudden roar echoed through the hall. The golden fire flickered and dark figures burst from the shadows cloaked in, black armor, their eyes burning red. Syrah drew her bow in one swift motion. "The rebels," she hissed, "they seek to end the law and start war." The intruders moved fast, blades of dark light in their hands, and stepped in front of Syrah without thought. Grabbing a fallen staff from the floor, the rebels attacked with silent fury. The clash of light and shadow filled the hall. The elders watched but did not move, as if the outcome itself was part of the trial. Ethan parried a strike, the force shivering. Through his arms, he countered with a swing that sent the attacker back into the wall of crystal, where sparks of blue light flared. Syrah loosed an arrow of pure energy that split into 3 beams, striking 2 more rebels. They fell, but another leapt. Forward, aiming for the golden sphere, Ethan blocked the path, his heart racing every move, driven by a will stronger than fear. Together, he and Syrah fought side by side until the last rebel fell into the silence. The hall grew still, the golden fire brightened, and the elder spoke again. "The trial of unity is complete. You have defended each other, and the bond of your hearts shines true. Now the final right awaits." The voice echoed like distant thunder as the golden sphere expanded, casting warm light across the chamber, signaling that the greatest decision still lay ahead. Ethan stood in the golden light, his breath heavy from the fight. The fallen rebels lay silent, their dark armor fading into thin mist as if they had never been. The elders watched without a word, their eyes calm like deep oceans. Syrah lowered her bow but kept her stance ready. Her silver eyes flickered with caution. The sphere of fire above them pulsed brighter, and the chamber walls began to shift, opening into a new path of soft blue glow. The elder in the center raised a long staff and spoke, with a voice like distant thunder. "The trial of unity is past, but the bond is not yet sealed. The last step is the trial of sacrifice, where one must give without demand. Only through selfless choice can the union of worlds be complete." The elder gestured toward the opening. A low wind carried a scent of rain and metal. Ethan felt the weight of the words deep in his chest. He turned to Syrah. "What does this mean?" She looked down for a moment, then met his gaze. "It means one of us must face a challenge that could cost everything: life, memory, even the soul itself. The council will not choose. We must decide who will walk the path." The air grew colder as they entered the new passage, a narrow corridor of crystal that sang with a low vibration. Each step brought echoes of old songs. Voices of those who had walked before the corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with floating lights that moved like slow stars at the center. A pool of dark water shimmered with faint silver ripples. A stone altar rose from its heart. The elder voices surrounded them, though no bodies followed. The path requires a gift beyond fear. The human or the guardian must offer the heart, the mind or the breath of life to prove the bond of peace. Only then will the arrow law be fulfilled. Syrah stepped forward without hesitation, her voice steady. "I will take the trial," she said. "I began this challenge. I fired the arrow. The bond is my burden." Ethan felt a sharp pull inside. He stepped beside her. "No, we stand together, but I will not let you face death alone. I caught the arrow. I will take the trial." The floating lights brightened their glow, becoming a circle around the pool. A low tone filled the air like a heartbeat of the planet. The stone altar shifted, revealing a narrow path across the water. The dark surface reflected the lights above like a sky of endless nights. Syrah placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm despite the chill. "You do not know what waits beyond," she whispered. "It could take your memory of Earth or your very soul." Ethan looked into her eyes and saw the silent strength within her. He felt the bond that had grown through danger and trust. "I know," he said, "but if peace depends on this, then my choice is clear." He stepped onto the path. The water rippled but held solid beneath his feet. Each step brought a wave of cold that cut through his bones. Voices rose from the dark depths, calling his name in tones of sorrow and hope. Images of his past flickered in the water, the faces of family and friends, the distant blue oceans of Earth, the quiet nights of his childhood. A voice deep and kind asked, "Will you give all that you are to bind two worlds?" Then closed his eyes, the chill reached his heart. Yet he felt no fear. He thought of Sira, of the fragile chance for peace, and of the endless stars waiting beyond. "Yes," he said, "my life, my memory, my heart. All for the bond." A sudden surge of silver light rose from the pool, wrapping around him like a living flame. The cold vanished, replaced by a warmth that filled every part of him. The voices sang in harmony. The light spun faster until the chamber shone like a newborn sun. When the glow faded, Ethan stood on the altar unharmed, but changed a soft silver mark now. Burned on his palm, shaped like the arrow he had caught. Sarah ran to him, her eyes wide with wonder. "You passed?" she whispered. The elders appeared around them. Their deep voices filled the chamber. "The sacrifice is accepted. The bond is true. The worlds shall unite." The golden sphere descended from above, bathing them in gentle light. The elders bowed, and the air carried the scent of new rain. The trial of sacrifice had ended, but the final ceremony of union still awaited beyond the next door, where destiny would decide the future of two worlds. Ethan and Sira followed the elders as the golden light faded into a soft silver glow. The chamber behind them closed with a soundless breath ahead. A tall arch of living crystal opened like the petals of a giant flower. Beyond it stretched a long hall where the floor shone like still water, and the ceiling glimmered with countless tiny lights that pulsed like stars. The air smelled of rain and something sweeter. A promise of new life. They walked. In silence, the soft sound of their steps echoed through the endless hall. The silver mark on Ethan's palm tingled with a quiet warmth. Sira glanced at it with wonder. "The sign of the arrow," she whispered. "It means the sacrifice has been accepted and the bond is unbreakable, but the final rite remains before the union can bring peace." Ethan nodded, though his heart beat faster. Each step brought a deeper sense that the moment ahead would decide more than their lives. At the end of the hall waited a wide circular chamber where a pool of pure light floated in the air like a suspended sea. The council of elders stood around it, their forms half shadow, half starlight. The central elder lifted a staff of white fire and spoke with a voice that filled every corner of the chamber. "The bond is proven, but choice must seal it. Will the human and the guardian step into the light and vow to unite their worlds?" Sira turned to Ethan, her silver eyes steady. "The law calls for us to join as one before the stars. Do you accept this path, knowing it binds not only us but the fate of two civilizations?" Ethan looked into her eyes and felt the long journey in his heart. The forest, the bridge, the trials of fear and unity, the sacrifice all had led to. "This moment I accept," he said. "My heart and my will stand with you and with your people." The elder lowered the staff and the pool of light began to swirl, forming a gentle spiral of silver and gold. A soft wind rose, carrying a sound like distant singing. The elder spoke again. "Step forward together and let the light bind your spirits." Ethan and Sira walked side by side toward the pool. The surface rippled as they approached, the warmth of the light wrapped around them like a living embrace. They stepped into the glow and the chamber disappeared, replaced by a vast sky filled with endless stars. They floated weightless in the center of a cosmic ocean. Colors danced around them, streams of blue and violet weaving into shapes of galaxies. A voice without form echoed through the stars. "The vow must be spoken, speak from truth, and the union shall endure." Sira lifted her head and spoke her words, soft yet strong. "I pledge to stand with this human and his people to guard the bond and honor the peace of both worlds." Ethan followed, his voice steady. "I pledge to join with Sira and her people to share knowledge, protect life, and keep the promise of unity." The stars blazed brighter. A surge of silver light wrapped around them, forming a ring that pulsed. With living energy, the mark on Ethan's palm flared. The same light burned on Sira's wrist, 2 points of brilliance that joined into one. The voice spoke again. "The vow is sealed. The worlds are bound. The age of division ends tonight." Suddenly the stars folded back into the chamber of crystal. The elders bowed low, their eyes shining like newborn suns. The central elder said, "The union is complete from this day. The humans and the guardians shall walk as allies. No war shall rise between them. The light of peace will guide our futures." A soft cheer echoed through the chamber, not from the elders but from unseen crowds beyond the walls. The sound of countless voices, both human and alien, joined in harmony. Sierra turned to Ethan, a gentle smile. On her lips, her silver eyes reflecting the swirl of lights. "We have done what none before us could," she said. Ethan felt the truth of her words. The journey had begun with a single impossible act. A caught arrow and a choice made in a heartbeat now. That choice had shaped the destiny of two worlds. He took her hand, feeling the warmth of the new bond, and looked toward the glowing horizon of the alien sky, knowing that this was not an ending, but the first step of a greater story waiting beyond the stars.